For 31 years, the official record said Danny Ferreira retired from full-contact competition due to a knee injury. But the World Kickboxing Association made sure you'd never learn that they personally revoked his sanctioning because his left heel kick had ended 3 careers, and the commission had financial reasons to keep that very quiet. That's the story they told. It isn't what happened. Someone made sure you'd never hear this. Here's what the records were rewritten to hide. 1975. Full-contact kickboxing is new in America. Televised. Hungry for stars. Danny Ferreira is 23 years old and undefeated in 42 bouts. Born in Sao Paulo. Trained in capoeira before he ever laced up a glove. His left heel kick doesn't swing from above. It travels in a flat horizontal arc, accelerating through contact, the heel connecting after the foot has already rotated past where your eye expects it. Trainers who reviewed his early footage say they've never seen anything structurally identical. Nobody taught him that kick. He built it entirely himself, grinding out the mechanics in a concrete gym in Sao Paulo for 3 years before anyone saw it land in competition. He was the kind of fighter a new sport needed. And then they made him disappear. 3 fighters had retired within 18 months of facing Ferreira. The WKA logged all 3 as voluntary exits. None of them ever competed again. You were told the sport was violent and that people got hurt. That part is true. But those 3 fighters didn't quit because the sport was hard. 2 had documented vestibular damage, disruption to the inner ear severe enough that one of them still can't walk a straight line without assistance. The other reported hearing loss that came on 3 days after their fight with Ferreira. That's not what a punch does. That's not what a conventional kick does. The medical literature on traumatic vestibular injury from blunt impact to the temporal bone is narrow and specific. The WKA's medical officer in 1976 knew exactly what had caused it. His name appears in the internal review. That review was classified, the commission's own word, not mine, and what I'm about to tell you was pulled from a legal deposition that never made it to a courtroom. But that's not the part they buried. The obvious answer is they banned the kick because it was dangerous. Dangerous technique, governing body steps in, fighter retires the move. Clean, simple, you can sell that story. But the WKA didn't ban the kick, not officially. There is no rule in any version of their 1976 or 1977 rulebook referencing a heel arc strike or capoeira rotation technique. They didn't write the restriction into the rules. They wrote it into the licensing paperwork for one man. His name only, no other fighter, no other technique. That's not a safety ruling. A safety ruling applies to everyone. What they wrote applied to one person, and that distinction matters more than you've been told. Here's what the deposition said. In 1976, 2 promoters with WKA sanctioning rights had placed significant advance money on 3 upcoming title fights. Ferreira was scheduled for all 3. He was the draw. He was why tickets sold. The injured fighters had presented their medical findings privately to the WKA board, not publicly, privately, before any official statement. The board had a choice. Acknowledge the injury pattern and open every previous Ferreira event to liability, which also threatened the televised kickboxing deal they were finalizing with a major broadcast network, or contain it. They chose containment. They called Ferreira into a meeting. No lawyer present. His English was functional but not fluent. He was told he would not receive sanctioning for future bouts unless he agreed not to use the kick competitively. Nothing in writing explaining why. No medical documentation handed over. He signed because he needed the sanctioning to fight. He believed the restriction was temporary. 31 years, that's how long it took for any of this to surface in documents that weren't sealed. The network deal closed 4 months after that meeting. Ferreira never fought again in the United States. He applied for reinstatement twice. Both applications were lost, the WKA's own word, both times. The third application was never acknowledged. He was 24 years old, undefeated, 42 fights. A technique nobody in the sport had a framework to defend against, and nobody was ever asked to defend against it again. The 3 fighters he had injured never received compensation through the WKA's liability structure because the injuries were never officially linked to his technique. The civil case containing the deposition settled out of court in 1979. Sealed. The WKA folded, restructured, and renamed twice before the end of the decade. Records transferred each time. The commission that holds those archives now says the 1976 files are incomplete. Not destroyed. Incomplete, that's a specific word. And the person who chose it knew exactly which files were missing. Someone classified that medical review. Someone lost those applications. Someone settled before the testimony entered the public record. The kick still exists. There is footage in Brazilian archives that almost nobody in American kickboxing has ever seen. But here's what nobody has answered in 50 years. If this was purely a safety decision, why was only one man's name ever written on the ban?